Hello everybody. So we've talked a lot about one-point perspective, and I think it's about time that we actually get some practice drawing cubes in one-point perspective. So for this assignment, you're going to be drawing 9 cubes in one-point perspective. You're going to need a large piece of paper from your sketchbook. You're also going to need a ruler and a pencil and an eraser. Once you have all that, you are ready to go. So before we get started, let us do a quick little recap of what is needed for one-point perspective here. Our basic building blocks for one-point perspective that you're going to use in this drawing. The first thing you want is your picture plane. That is the box that's going to be your drawing is going to live in. So you can see I've drawn an 8.5 by 11 picture plane here in my sketchbook. So that way I'm going to keep all of my drawing inside of this page here. And we do this because we want to keep your drawing all within this picture. If you get too far away from the vanishing point, you're going to start to get distorted images. So this is our way of limiting our space here. Okay, after you have your picture plane, we're going to need a horizon line. That is the spot where the sky meets the ground. We're going to be putting our horizon line in the center of our page here. So you can go ahead and take your ruler and draw a horizon line perfectly horizontal going through the center of your page. And remember, this is where the ground meets the sky. You want to think about everything being above the horizon line as being above eye level. Everything below the horizon line is below eye level. So start visualizing. Everything down here is the table in front of you, and everything up here is the sky or the rest of the room, however you want to visualize it. This is one-point perspective, so we are going to have one vanishing point in this, and when doing one-point perspective, we always want to start with our vanishing point right in the center, because that is where we are looking, so that is where we want that vanishing point to be. It is our line of sight. We are looking at that point right now. And so if this is our line of sight here, you remember that everything to the left is to the left of our line of sight, and everything to the right of the center is to the right of our line of sight. So you really want to think about what this room looks like in front of you. Really start to visualize it. And then when you start to draw one-point perspective, the first thing you draw is that front face of your cube. It is the thing you always want to start with. It is the easiest part here, so you always are going to be starting with a square with every single object. Remember, all your horizontals, the width of our cube, are going to be perfectly horizontal. You want the verticals to be perfectly vertical, the height of our cube. You don't want them to be any angle, and that's why we really want to make sure we're using a ruler. It is super important that all your lines are perfectly straight. You don't want to have any wobbly lines that will really throw off your perspective. And then the rest of the lines you're going to be drawing are our receding lines, and they will all be diagonal lines. So all our diagonal lines will be our receding lines that will be receding back towards this one point, our vanishing point here. So you really want to remember, the only lines you're drawing is this front face, and then the receding lines that are going back to that vanishing point. Okay, so let's get started here. I'm going to start with making a box below my horizon line here. So I'm going to start with my ruler here. Remember, we're making cubes, so you want to do your best to make these even. I actually can measure this out with my ruler here while I'm doing this. I'm just making these all 2 inches, so it's perfectly even while I'm drawing these here. Try to keep your ruler, as perpendicular when you're doing each angle. You don't want to have skewed angles here for any of your cubes. And this here is the front face of our cube. We have started. Imagine you are looking at this cube. So we have the width of our cube is perfectly horizontal. The height of our cube is perfectly vertical. Now you need to visualize this cube here is below the horizon line, so we know we're going to be seeing the top of it because it's beneath eye level. And then it is to the right of our line of sight, so that means we're going to be seeing the side of it here because we're seeing it off to the side. We're not seeing it straight on. So we're actually going to see 3 sides of this cube here. Okay, so you want to visualize these sides you're going to be drawing, and you know that all of your receding lines, the length of those cubes, are going to be receding back towards this one vanishing point. So I'm going to take my ruler here, and I'm going to start going from the corner of this cube here and measuring all the way back to my horizon line. And I'm going to draw pretty light. I want to make sure you guys can see it, but I'm going to draw light enough that it's not distracting. And then I'm going to go from this corner here all the way back to the horizon line, and then the third corner here, all the way back to the horizon line. This is the length of our cube receding backwards. And remember, because of diminution, it gets smaller as it goes farther away from us. Okay, then all you need to do is figure out where you want your cube to end. Do you want to be a really long box where it goes all the way back here? Or do you want to be shorter? It could be a really narrow box that goes here. What we're going to try to aim for here is a cube. So you want to visualize what a cube would look like. That's why it's great to have a box or a cube out in front of you. So it's actually much narrower than you think it is. The depth of this, because of diminution, things look smaller. So when you're trying to make a perfect cube, it's actually going to be much narrower than you expect. So I'm going to make this line here, which is also the width of my cube. It's parallel to the front. So that's going to be perfectly horizontal. And then the height of my cube in the back here, it's going to meet it right up at that corner and goes down to where it meets this angle here. So now I'm just going to darken these lines a little bit. Darken the edges. We're imagining this is a opaque cube. It's not transparent, so we're not seeing inside of it. We are just seeing the outside of this box. So imagine these lines here are now gone. I'm not going to erase them. I want you guys to keep your work here because it's really important, especially when we're talking to each other online. I want to be able to see your work. I want to see all of your receding lines. So don't go erasing any lines. I would rather be able to see what you're working on, just like this was math homework, so I can understand you're actually doing this correctly. And there we go. We have our first cube in 1 point perspective. Okay, let us draw another one. This time I'm going to draw one that's going to be above the horizon line and right in our line of sight. So it's going to be in the center here. I'm going to make this one bigger. So imagine, we're drawing. So imagine we're drawing these cubes in this space here. You really want to think about these cubes and how they exist in this space. So since I'm drawing this cube right now above the horizon line, we know we're going to be looking up at it. We're going to see the underneath side of it. Always thinking about where we are in relation. And actually, I drew this one pretty close to the horizon, so we're not going to see a whole lot of the bottom of this cube here. And what's actually going to happen now is because this cube is on our line of sight, it's right in the center, we're only going to see two sides of the cube. In this cube here, we could see three sides. We could see the front, the top, and this side here. But because this one is in the center, it is above our line of sight here, our vanishing point, we're not going to be able to see either side. Imagine that cube in front of you. If you were to hold it up straight ahead, you can only see two sides of that cube. So we know we're only going to be able to see the bottom. We have the width of our cube here is perfectly horizontal. The height of our cube is perfectly vertical. And then the length we know is going to recede back to this one vanishing point. So all I need to do is connect these edges here all the way back to this vanishing point. And that is the bottom of our cube. And actually, it could be a little bit lighter. I'm not going to completely erase it, but I want to make sure it isn't distracting and I don't get confused with what is part of my cube and what is not. Okay, so you can start to visualize it now, right? We're seeing underneath the cube. And now you just got to figure out how long this cube is, because these are the length lines, just like here. I could have it go all the way here, and you can see it starts to get super narrow if I put this line right here. So it means it's a super, super long cube. But I'm going to go much shorter here. So we're only just seeing a little bit of the bottom of this cube. Because remember, the closer we get to the horizon, the less we're going to see, the narrower things get. So because this is close to the horizon, we're just going to see a very little bit of this cube here. And there we go. We have the bottom of our cube. We're just seeing two sides. Okay, great. Let's make another one here. This third one, I'm going to make it on the horizon line. So it's not going to be above it. It's not going to be below it. We're going to be looking straight on at it, but I'm going to put it off to the side here, to the left of our line of sight. So let's see. How big do I want to make this one? I'll make it a little bit smaller. And I'm not going to put it directly centered. You can put it directly centered if you like, but I would like to have it just a little bit off to the side so you can see what it looks like. So now this is the front face of our cube. Once again, that's what you start with. And you have to visualize where this cube is in space. It is right on the horizon line, so we're not going to see the top or the bottom. And it's to the left of our line of sight. So that means we're actually going to see the side of this cube now. Just like this one here, we could see the side of it because it was to the side of our line of sight. Okay, so we can't see the top, can't see the bottom. We're going to connect these lines here and do a little better job being lighter, going all the way back to our vanishing point. Remember, this is the length of our cube we're trying to visualize now. And once again, we want to figure out how deep, what is the length of this cube. If I put the line like right here, it'd be super long and rectangular, but we want to make this a square. And really it takes some practice to get used to drawing squares in perspective and trying to make them look like perfect squares. But the one thing you want to remember is that it's always narrower than you think. It's not as deep as you think it is. And that's because of diminution. Okay, so now we have our third cube in 1 point perspective. And you can see every receding line is going back to that vanishing point. Okay, let us draw one more here before I let you guys go on your own. I'm going to draw it all the way down here. And now this time I am drawing it below the horizon line, so we're looking down at it. And I'm drawing it to the left of our line of sight. So that means we are going to be seeing the side of it again. Really, you want to remember, anytime you're drawing anything in the corners, that's when you're going to see three sides of the cube, was when it's off to the side here in these quadrants. Anytime it's on the horizon line or on your line of sight, you're only going to see two sides. Okay, so this cube here, it is to the left of our line of sight, below the horizon line. That means we can see the top of it. So I can draw the top of it receding backwards. And then we know we're going to see the left or the right side of it here because it's off to the side of our line of sight here. So we can draw these lines going back. I drew those a little dark again, so I'm just going to lighten it a bit. There we go. Enough that I see them, but they're not super distracting. And remember, I don't want you to erase your lines. I want to see your work, just like this is math homework. Okay, so once again, let's figure out how deep this cube is. And I'm imagining this cube is closer to us than this cube. Because where the bottom is here, it is closer to us. So I'm imagining this is a bigger cube that is closer to us here. Okay, so where do I want to make the top of it? I'm going to have it go right about here. Good. And then let's make the side of it. Remember, the top and the side are going to match up. You're basically duplicating this front side here. You're just making a smaller version of it that's closer to the horizon. There. Okay. Now, I might have made this one a little bit long. I think this doesn't feel quite cube-like to me. It actually feels more like a rectangular box that's receding backwards. But that's okay. And there we go. I have a fourth box here in 1 point perspective. And actually, for the fun of it, I'm going to draw one more right here. I'm going to draw a nice little one because I want to show you how you can use overlapping to make it look like these cubes are existing in the same space. I'm going to put a little cube, a nice little 1-inch cube, right here on top of this box. So I'm visualizing it sitting here on top of the other one. And it's still going to be below the horizon line, but just a little bit. We're super close to that horizon line, so we're only going to see a little bit of the top. And we're to the left of our line of sight here, so we're going to see a little bit more of the side of this cube here. Okay, and you can see as we get closer and closer to the horizon line that these angles get more and more horizontal. I got this one here. That one there. Once again, just a little dark. It's typically better to do your first round with like a H pencil, something that's nice and hard. That way, you don't end up drawing lines too dark. I'm using a B pencil, just so you guys can see the lines. But typically I'll usually start with a harder lead when doing the start of this. Okay, so I'm going to do the side of my box here and make it about that long. And you can see I want it to still be sitting on top of this box. So there's still a little bit of space behind the box here on either side. And then the top, we're just barely going to see it because we're so close to that horizon line. We just have that little tiny bit. Okay, then I'm just going to connect my lines. And there we go. We have our next cube in 1 point perspective. And you can see, it feels like it's sitting on top of this one. We could actually even erase this line here. Not all the way, I still want to be able to see it, but I'm going to lighten it so it actually looks like this cube is in front of the back there. It's actually sitting on top of this box. Okay, there we go. We now have 5 cubes in 1 point perspective. At this point, I'm going to let you guys go ahead. I really want you to try to be inventive. Really try to place your cubes in a variety of different spots here. I want to have a number of them above the horizon line, a number of them below the horizon line, some on the horizon line. Use your space and try to think about how they exist in this space with each other. You can put some in front of each other. You can even put one like in front here. You can put some next to each other. Really think about how they exist in this space. Now I just want to finish up my drawing here. I'm going to continue drawing all my 9 cubes. I'm going to speed this up to save you guys some time. But remember, I want you to be as inventive as possible. Make these cubes look believable. Make it look like they exist in this space. Remember, there's only one vanishing point, and all of the length of our cubes are receding back to that one vanishing point. The height and the width are all perfectly horizontal and vertical. So we're only dealing with one set of receding line in this whole picture. Every receding line should vanish at this horizon line. Okay, I'm going to keep going here. And there we go. I have my 9 cubes in 1 point perspective. Yours should look something like this. It shouldn't be exactly the same. I want to see you guys trying to place your cubes in your own space in front of you. When done correctly, perspective will feel right. It will feel like these cubes actually exist in the same space together. And that's why it's really important you use your ruler, make sure your lines aren't wobbly. Make sure all your receding lines are light so they're not too distracting, so you can always darken the outlines of your cubes to make sure we can see them. And once again, if you're having trouble, you can always take a break, do the reading, rewatch the videos. That's what it's there for. I really want you guys to be able to understand this. Okay, and that's it.